Hi everyone, welcome back to another continuing education check-in. Today we're talking about attraction karma. This is something that we've coined ourselves, and so we're going to talk about what that is and everything that goes on behind it. And then what's been super exciting is that we've been getting a lot of encouragement and feedback from you guys watching. Not through comments mainly, but people have been approaching us saying that they've watched, telling us what they thought. And so we have some questions from the audience that we're going to talk about at the end. And I just want to say it's pretty interesting. So Sania and I were looking at the analytics last week, but there's been some updates. So most of our viewers are in America. There are a few in Canada, where Sania's from, and then we have like 1% from Taiwan. So shout out to everyone from Taiwan. We have, I think, a little bit more than 1% from Australia.
Wow.
And so that's super cool. I don't know anyone
in Australia.
And then this past week I saw on our YouTube, I think it's YouTube, maybe it's our Spotify, that there's about 1% watching from Nigeria.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
that's sick.
So slowly, like more and more people are watching, people that we don't know. And so thank you guys for tuning in. Even if it's just for a few minutes, we hope that you're getting something out of this.
Definitely.
And that really motivates us, just to know that people are watching and people are having good conversations from this. And so if you guys ever have any questions or you have comments, feel free to let us know. You can DM us, you can tell us in person, you can leave a comment down below. But it just helps us to continue being motivated.
Yeah.
And we're just like, it's a lot of fun to talk to you guys about this.
Okay, well, talking about fun, Ethan
Me?
was just in Houston. Would you like to tell us how your trip was? I've been dying to ask you this, but I wanted to wait until we were filming.
Yeah. So I actually didn't see this. I didn't see Houston at all.
So you didn't see Houston in Houston?
No. And what happened was I ended things over FaceTime.
Right.
And I decided to do that before I left on my trip because I didn't want to blindside her when I was there. And also, I felt like if I was going to tell her when I was in Houston, then we would go on a date first, and then I would tell her at the end.
Right.
And so I felt like it wouldn't be fair to her if I did it that way, because to her, it might feel like I was leading her on. So what I thought was, I'm going to do it beforehand, and then if she wants closure, we can talk about it in person.
Okay.
And so after I ended things, she said that she had all the closure she needed.
Okay.
But then she said she would still want to meet up. Right. And so the day that I was going to fly out, that morning she texted me, and I don't know if I mentioned this last episode, but part of the reason why this was so hard was because she was so nice about it.
Right.
And at the very end of the FaceTime, she said, please don't ever text me again.
Right.
If you have a moment of weakness, if you just want company, don't text me.
Right.
She said, unless you change your mind.
Damn.
And so she texted me and she said, I get out of work at 4:30. I'll be at this place at 5 if you want to meet up. And I was like lying on my bed reading that, and I'm like, oh no, like I don't mind meeting up, but I don't see the reason anymore.
Okay.
Because you've had all the closure that you needed.
Right.
If we meet up, isn't that just going to make things more complicated?
Definitely. It would like prolong things.
Yeah. And then what happened was like 2 hours later, she texted me again. And she was like, okay, I don't think this is a good idea. You should still go to this place because it's nice.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't meet up. And so we didn't.
Okay. I think you handled, that was just really responsible, both of you. involved was really responsible. Like, I
Yeah.
think everyone's allowed to have a moment of weakness
Mm-hmm.
in a breakup, but at least she was quick to like fix it,
Yeah.
and then it didn't get dragged out.
Yeah.
So I think that's really healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did you at least have a fun trip?
I had a great trip, and I'm not gonna lie. So Houston is a great place to go to.
Uh-huh.
I went to the rodeo,
Mm-hmm.
which is like the thing to do. It's a combination of like a state fair, a rodeo, and a concert.
Wow.
And so that was a lot of fun. And then I love eating, and so there's lots of great food in
Okay.
Houston. And so I had really great Tex-Mex. I used to look down on Tex-Mex. I thought it was
Yeah.
just
I kind of look down on it
fake
right
fake Mexican food or something, but it's not. It's
Okay.
amazing. And like, if you ever have doubts about it, I highly recommend going to Texas and trying it. And if you're ever in Houston, go to El Tiempo and get the beef fajitas. They changed my life.
Wow.
And so don't judge me too hard, but there's a good chance it might change yours too.
Ethan has really good food recommendations, so I think everyone listening, you should follow them.
Yeah. But shout out to my friends Jason and Lizzie for telling me about that place. I'm not gonna lie, when I was in Houston and I went to the rodeo, I went to the museum, I kept thinking, what if I ran into this girl?
Right.
And thank God I didn't. It's a huge city,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not gonna lie, I had my eye out.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but that's it for me.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna lie low for a while. So
Yeah.
actually, next time I will ask you for some advice, but we'll
Okay.
save it for next time.
All right. That sounds good. Okay. Well, we can get into today's episode. Ethan, do you want to tell everybody what is attraction karma? The way that we define it. Like you said, it's a word we coined ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and we talk about this concept, I think, a lot
Yeah.
in our episodes. So, do you want to give everyone like a rundown?
Yeah, so the first time this gets brought up officially on our podcast is in episode 5. And if you listen to that episode, I told Sania I wouldn't let her off the hook because she brought up this concept at the very end, and we didn't get enough time to really talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're on episode 11, but she is not off the hook, and this is something that we do have to address. The very first time Sania told me about this term was I was telling her about this girl that it was actually the girl who breadcrumbed me.
Mm-hmm.
And so things were going well, and then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but we stopped talking. She updated her Hinge profile, and that's when I knew it's pretty much over.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asking Sania for advice because I was super beat up about it. I didn't feel like I had any closure. It kind of blindsided me, and I thought things were going well. And so Sania told me that she was gonna text back at some point. It still has never happened, and it's been a couple months. But Sania said that she believes in this karma effect, that if I had such strong feelings towards this girl, she probably had some sort of feelings back for me at some point. And so I don't know if I fully buy into this. You're gonna need to convince me. But I wanted to talk about it more. I wanted to talk about if we think this is actually a thing and how to deal with it if you're in this situation where you like someone and they don't like you back, or someone likes you and like, is it a thing that you
Yeah.
start having some feelings back?
Well, I'm just going to say, Ethan, I just don't believe that feelings can be one-sided. Like, I feel like you can't be like deeply in love with somebody and it just be only you feeling that feeling. Like, obviously if we're talking about like celebrities and some people get like super in love with celebrities, if the celebrity doesn't know who you are, I don't know. But if it's somebody that you know, if it's somebody that you have had any sort of relationship with and you have feelings, I think they have to put something back in. Because it's really hard as a person to like let yourself like someone without them giving you anything back, right?
I get that. Let's rewind a little bit. So everyone has crushes from far away. You
Yeah.
brought this up with celebrities,
Yeah.
but I've also had crushes from far away, like when I was in school
Okay.
or with people that I don't know super well.
True.
And so this effect doesn't happen in that case, right? You're saying people that you actually know that you're in contact with somehow.
Yeah. Or like, okay, so even these crushes from far away in school, like those people would have had to do something to like pique your interest. Like why did one person interest you and not another? Like I can think back to being in like high school and like maybe like some guy was just super nice and like held the door open. It was something so small, but like some kind of, you know, some reason for me to like them.
For a guy, it's just that. Well, not it's just that, but most of the time it's because she looks pretty.
We're back to a physical attraction.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough.
So she didn't necessarily do anything to.
Okay.
And
Well,
and a lot of the
okay.
times she doesn't even know I exist.
Okay, that's fair. Fine. I'll say maybe attraction karma for sure is always there, at least if you both know each other.
Okay.
Okay? Like, if you have some sort of relationship, whether you guys are in the same friend group, in the same school, like, what, like, as long as you both know that the other person exists and you guys have had conversations or something.
Interesting. And have you ever seen this happen with yourself? So someone liked you first, and then
I started to like them.
yeah,
Or like I felt, yeah.
Or can you explain like what was going through your head and what that process
I think
was?
I've been on both ends of it. So I think like I've been friends with people that, you know, have ended up maybe catching feelings, and I think we talked about this a lot in our first episode. You know, can guys and girls be friends, and somebody ends up catching feelings? But I think the reason that they caught feelings is maybe because at some point, you know, maybe I just kept it to myself and didn't say it to them. But maybe at some point I did think like, oh, like, you know, maybe that, like, you know, they're my friend, like they're so nice, like maybe they could be a good potential person to date. But it was just like a thought, and it didn't go any further than that. But maybe my actions a little bit started to align with that, and that's why the other person had those feelings that they had. And here I was running around like, oh, my friends keep liking me, but it's like, wait, maybe it's a little bit brought on by me. You know? And then on the other end of it, I think I talk about my ex a lot. I've only had one ex, so that's what I talk about. But he absolutely didn't like me in the beginning. Like I just had such strong feelings for him, and we can call this toxic. We can, you know, maybe I wear these the rose-colored glasses when I say this, but I will say, like, me liking him so strongly made him like me really strongly back, and that's why we started dating. Even though I liked him and I told him I liked him, and he was like, oh, sorry, I don't like you. With enough time of him thinking about it and seeing how my feelings were genuine, I don't know how I'd be a good match, he started liking me.
So that was a success story.
Yeah.
But you've also talked about what happens on the other end of the spectrum, where someone likes you first, you kind of consider it after a while, but then you said it stops there and it doesn't go any further. So what stopped you? Why didn't it get to go further with those guys?
I don't know. I feel like...
Did you stop yourself or...
Yes,
or?
I stopped myself. Because it was in those situations, you know, when like one of your friends like kind of maybe starts to like you, and I stopped myself because like I just feel like to get into a relationship or to really like somebody, like they could be the, like obviously we all choose our friends very carefully, and we all like our friends. They have similar values, like they're nice people, they take care of us, they're there for us, which are all also things that you find in like a good partner. But I think like for me personally, and I don't know, Ethan, maybe you agree, you're big on sexual attraction, but I won't just say it's physical, but I think like there has to be something that makes me really like them. And I think I didn't have that thing of like, oh, like I really want to be with them. Like they didn't excite me like that, you know?
Okay.
Like I wasn't like, I saw them as a potential partner because of all their affection and love and care, but I never saw them as like, wow, I'd be so excited to be with this person. Like, I'd be excited if their name pops up on my phone. There was never that, you know, that, like, the butterflies in your stomach feeling.
But you think it's possible to get there? Like, is there a way that someone can develop that kind of X factor, show that edge, that you would change your mind? Because somehow you changed your ex's mind.
True. I think there is definitely ways of doing that. It's just, like, you know, like with my ex, I went no contact. So I guess, like, if you're always constantly there for somebody and then you like show them like, oh wait, you were only getting this treatment because I liked you, because I wanted to date you, and now you don't want to do that, so maybe I'm gonna like keep all my good actions and my good words to myself. And then you, the person who's receiving it, is like, oh, I kind of miss that. Like, and then it starts, I think it's just about getting the other person thinking about you.
Okay.
Yeah. I think if the other person's thinking about you, like, maybe you can get that X factor and you can make somebody like you.
But a lot of times you need the X factor to get them thinking about you.
True.
Like what you did was the opposite way, where you withdrew.
Yes.
And because you were friends already, they were thinking about you and thinking, oh, how come Sania's a little different now?
Yeah.
And what happened?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times, maybe what I'm seeing now is you need to show something, like some kind of potential for them to
consider it.
Yeah, to not stop themselves and actually consider you more.
Yeah. I guess we're getting into like, will a relationship actually come out of it? Can you make somebody else like you? But I think the bigger picture of like attraction karma is just, if I had feelings, like you have them too. Whether or not you choose to act on them, you maybe on some level, like maybe it was just like a passing thought in your mind, but you had some kind of feeling or thought that made you act certain ways. So like if we talk about the breadcrumb girl, like you guys fully went on dates. Yours wasn't even just like, you were in the same friend group or anything. So it was clear that there was attraction from both sides. And then you guys had, from what you explained, like if you're saying it's a really good date, like you guys had really good dates. You guys had, good texts and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden for her to stop, like there must be a reason for her to stop. But that doesn't mean that she wasn't feeling attracted. Like the attraction wasn't one-sided.
I feel like it still could be, because I think there's a possibility that what happened was she was like, I'm not super attracted to this person right off the bat, but I'm gonna give him a chance.
Okay.
Because maybe his personality is good, but maybe she just wasn't feeling any sparks.
Okay, but you said you guys had good conversations and like stuff like that, right? That's
but we have good conversations.
That's why I was so sure that she was gonna text back, because I was like there's no way you're feeling all these feelings alone. Like maybe she's feeling them, but she's not expressing them, or like not reaching, like not acting on it. But she could be also just like feeling it.
Yeah, I understand. But now let's look at the facts. It's been like 3-4 months since we last talked. And so looking at that, how can you say that maybe there was some attraction on her side?
Maybe she just has really good self-control. Like to not let herself reach out in a moment of weakness or in a moment when she is thinking about you.
But maybe in her moment of weakness, she's thinking about someone else. Sorry, I'm really like, I'm not letting this, I'm not letting you win easy.
I'm very, very optimistic. What you're saying could be true as well.
Yeah.
And it could be that maybe, like, because you guys weren't, you were starting to date. So maybe, she was dating other people as well. And maybe like she found someone that she had more of a connection with, but I think that doesn't take away from the connection that she had with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give you another example. And so there's this other girl. I've mentioned her before, but we were friends. And so when I first met her, I became friends with her because she was emotionally unavailable. And I thought I was setting myself up well by becoming friends.
Right.
Just also like building a friendship and setting the foundation like that. But I think when I look back now, I think she only wanted to be friends.
Okay.
But I think about all our shared experiences. And I think you would have to be blind to, like, if you're watching what went down, to say that I didn't make my feelings known. And it was like coming out in subtle ways. In our conversation and me messaging her and initiating those interactions.
Right.
And now it just all like faded to nothing.
I still wouldn't say that it has faded into nothing. I think sure you had feelings for her, and again, if she is, so you're reaching out, you're initiating those plans, you're initiating those conversations, but she's still reciprocating them, and she doesn't have to, right? And so maybe she did want to be friends all along, because maybe, like, whatever, we're calling it the X factor. Mm-hmm. Maybe you didn't have that for her, but that doesn't mean that she didn't consider you at some point. Like, I guess attraction karma is a good concept for people if they have been friend zoned at any point, mm-hmm. just to know, like, that they're not crazy. They weren't developing feelings for someone who never considered them.
But is that supposed to really make you feel better? Like, I have feelings for these girls. Mm-hmm. They consider me. That kind of makes me feel worse, because it didn't work out, and then also I didn't have that X factor, or maybe I had a deal breaker for them that right. just didn't let it turn into something. Well,
at that point, then, you know how we've been saying, like, then it kind of saved you. If you didn't have that X factor, if you had a deal breaker that they didn't want, like, then you say, but it's just, like, I guess just to make you feel like, just to console you in the sense that, like, your feelings weren't one-sided. Like, you can trust your feelings if you like somebody, because I think a lot of times if you're somebody who gets friend zoned a lot, like, maybe you'll be scared to have feelings for someone. You'll be like, oh no, maybe this is all in my head. Like, maybe this is, like, the last time and she just wants to be friends again. Mm-hmm. And so you'll start, like, blocking yourself and, like, overthinking every little thing. So this is just to, like, kind of release yourself and be like, oh, if I like her, maybe she does like me too. Let me try. And it's okay if nothing comes of it. I think the end result is not as important. I mean, it is important, but I think it's not, like, everything. Like, I think it's helped me. Like, when I've gotten friend zoned, I'm just like, oh, like, at least I do think he did think about me, you know? Mm-hmm. Sure, he didn't think about me enough to, like, make me his girlfriend, make me his wife, make me his whatever, but he did have feelings for me, and, like, that makes me feel like my feelings weren't, like, a waste. They didn't just go up into thin air and, like, disappear into nothingness. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Yeah, that helps.
Feel better.
There's, like, a couple of things that I'm thinking about now that are, like, my main takeaways. Okay. And so the first thing is that I think for a lot of guys, it usually starts with physical attraction. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important to recognize that, but also for guys to not fully buy into that. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you're attracted to someone and it's not just physical attraction, mm-hmm. then there's a better chance that the feelings will get reciprocated. Mm-hmm. If you just like a girl because she's cute, there's nothing really of substance between you guys.
Like, there's no ties emotionally.
Right. And so, like, if you're in that situation, I think it's important to let your personality come out, mm-hmm. but then also for you to spend time with them and see if you actually even like them as a person. Yeah. And I think when that happens, and it's not just based on looks, mm-hmm. then feelings can start to develop, and
on both sides.
You create mm-hmm. that environment. And then the other thing that I'm realizing is that in this situation, when you like someone, but it's important that you be yourself, mm-hmm. and you let your personality, it's on full display.
Yeah,
because
including all the deal breakers, like, show everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you don't ever want to hide yourself from someone and they make judgments on you based on a false perception of you. Mm-hmm. If you're yourself, if that person is a good person for you, then they will make a decision mm-hmm. based on your true self.
True.
And so if it works out, you set yourself even better for success. And if it doesn't work out, at least you know that they weren't making that judgment and you weren't giving your, like, 100%. Or mm-hmm. that's not a good way to put it, but you weren't showing the true side of yourself.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with this.
Okay. And then let's say you like someone, and then there's a good chance that they start to consider you.
Right.
Is there anything that you can do in that situation to
like push them over the edge?
Yeah.
No, I think at that point, if you already have a bond with them, I think it just goes back to what you were saying about like, just be yourself. Like, just put yourself on display. If you have this connection, you have this bond, and you think that maybe they're considering you, like, this is a time to just show who you are completely and honestly, and then just let them decide. Because you also don't want something that's not for you, you know? Like, if you're hiding yourself at that moment a little bit, like, you don't want to, like, get into a relationship and, like, not be your fullest, most authentic self.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. But then logistically, should you be trying to hang out with them more? Should you be trying to initiate more conversation, being more persistent?
Yeah. I think at that point, I think we talked about this like back in like around Thanksgiving, Ethan. I think you also have to like test the bond. You know, if you've created a bond and there is a bond, I think there's also a time to test that bond. And it's not always no contact. No contact tends to work really well. I know the real reasons for no contact are like to actually have no contact, not to make that person miss you and text you. But like, I think you can test it in like other ways. Like, you know, like, okay, I text them first every weekend to make plans. What if I don't text them first this weekend? What if they text me first? You know? Or are we just not going to hang out?
Yeah.
So, like, just doing little things. Like, if you feel that that person has started to have feelings, like, it's time to make them also realize that they have those feelings, you know? And, like, I'm not saying take a step back, but, like, let them also pursue you a little bit. Because you can't just do all of the pursuing. There has to be something from the other person. I
agree. But right now what I'm thinking is that, let's say they have an inkling that they might be interested back.
Yeah.
And they're kind of considering you. I feel like when you're in that situation, you're still not sure. You're dealing with a lot of question marks.
Right.
And so let's say you hang out with them every weekend, and then one weekend they don't message you first.
Right. If
I was confused and maybe considering them as an option, I just wouldn't message them or text them. You know, like I would just be a little confused, and I wouldn't think that deeply into it.
Okay. And that's fair. And, like, yeah, sometimes if the feelings aren't at that, like, level, that makes sense. But even just, like, I don't know, like, small stuff. Like, you just have to, like, I don't know if you guys send each other memes all the time, like, or like, TikTok videos or something. Like, maybe if you don't send all of them, maybe, like, let them start sending. Like, I think you just need, because I think also a problem that I've seen, that I've experienced that has happened, is if one person is just like pursuing so hard, you don't give the other person space to even like try to pursue you back or try to have attraction for you, because you're just doing all the work all the time. And then the other person is just like, they could start to feel like suffocated almost. So even if there was feelings, or there is, like, you could snuff them out like that. So I do think it's like at some point, whenever it feels okay, when maybe there's question marks, but maybe they're a little bit less, or they're starting to go away, you should just like a little bit take a step back and let them act and see what they're going to do.
Yeah, I love what you said. I think it's really important not to keep persisting. I think it sends not a great message if you just keep messaging them, trying to hang out, because then you come off as overbearing. And there's really no reason to do that, because you guys are not in a relationship. You should not be crossing those kinds of boundaries, and you don't know what the other person's tolerance is. Maybe they don't like it if you keep trying to hang out. And I think, to build on what Sania said, when you do pull back, we're not talking about just jumping straight to no contact, but I think that is important, and it doesn't mean that you're just not doing anything. I think during that time, you're showing that you have your own life outside of them. And that's a period of time where you should be doing things that you enjoy and working on yourself, developing new skills, and hopefully they'll see that, and that becomes very attractive. We're not saying to just isolate yourself, but also show that you are growing as a person and you have your own interests and your own friends, and that's going to serve you very well in the long run, because knowing how to be independent even in a serious committed relationship is important, so you don't smother each other all the time. And then investing in friendships outside of your relationship is also important, because those are the people who are going to have your back when you go through a tough argument or a breakup. And so I do think you should not, I don't know if pull back is the right word, but just give them space to make the decision. But in that time, be investing in yourself. And if it doesn't turn out well, you would have done all this stuff to improve yourself in the meantime.
So it's like a win-win. I think the saddest part about attraction karma, and I think this is what Ethan was trying to figure out, is how do you know if the other person had feelings for you ever? And I think honestly, like, you don't know. Like, that's the part of, you believe it. I think a lot of people talk about like manifestation and things like that. You know, like, let's say, you know, you're a kid in school and you know you want to be an engineer, and you, like, that's in your mind. You're going to start taking those classes. You're going to, like, start acting in a way to get that. So I think that's kind of a similar concept to what explains attraction karma. If you like somebody, you're going to act in ways to, you know, to try to get them. And those things are going to try to invoke feelings in that other person. But there's no guarantee that you ever find out about the other person's feelings. So you were talking about the breadcrumber, and you were talking about, you know, the girl that wanted to be friends all along, you thought. Even though you expressed your feelings to her. I'm going to talk about a friend that I had that I think really, really liked me. And we recently stopped talking, and because of personal stuff that I don't want to disclose right now. But point is, like, I don't think I ever, like, maybe he didn't have that thing that made me want to be in a relationship with him. But in our time apart, or not speaking, or, you know, not hanging out all the time, I do think about him. I've never ever told him. Because also, like, there's a fear from my side, like, if I say that I have considered him, or if I admit to anything that's going on in my mind, he'll take it as too much, and, like, he already likes me, so it's gonna, like, you know, the expectations are already so high. So, like, sure, there could be attraction, but I can keep it to myself. Either if I'm too confused and I'm still figuring out my own feelings, which is super valid, a lot of people have that, or maybe, like, they're just not enough, and I don't see an added value in me sharing that I even have these feelings. Because in my opinion, like, nothing is still to come of it. So, like, that person has no idea that, like, all these feelings that he had, all this effort that he was pouring in, like, you know, in his opinion, maybe he's out there sitting like Ethan is sitting right now, and he's like, oh, like, it was just one-sided, she wanted to be friends all along. But I did have feelings, and there was moments where I was considering him. It just never pushed me over the edge, but there was feelings there. So there's my attraction karma.
Well said. I'm happy to leave it at that. Did you have a conversation with him last week?
I didn't. I'm gonna try to talk to him today.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I hope it goes well, and
Thanks.
I guess I am curious about what your strategy is going into that, but we can keep that offline if you want. Okay. Well, today's end segment is questions from the audience, and hopefully, like, this will be fun for you guys, but people have been coming up to us and saying, hey, can you talk about this? I liked what you said in that episode, but we're not able to answer every single question, and so it's great when you guys tell us what you want to hear, and we'll try to talk about those topics a little more. And so in episode 2, this is jumping way back, but we talked about how we don't think, or maybe this is episode 1 too, we don't think it's a good idea when you like someone to just start off as being friends. And I gave an example of how that didn't work out. And so if you're in that situation, how do you avoid being friends with someone or getting put in the friend zone while still putting yourself in a good position to just go and ask them out?
Okay. I think the main thing for this one is just have your intentions clear right off the bat. So like, you can show right from the beginning that your plan is that or not your plan, that you are attracted to them and you would like to date them, but you can build up to it slowly. It's like, they should never be confused. Like, never let them call you friend, pal. And I know these are just like words that people use, but, they mean something. Or like if they start being like, oh, I like get groceries with all my friends. You can be like, yeah, but I'm not your friend. You can be very like, so that you can still, get close to them and get in a position where you're ready to ask them out.
Yeah.
But you can also let them know very clearly, like, no, like me and you hanging out, like this is not friendship.
I think that's great. One thing I do want to point out, and I learned this recently, is that a lot of people will call someone friend when they're trying to be flirty.
Yeah.
So they'll say, hey friend, and a lot of times this will even come through when you're messaging someone or through text. And so in that situation, you can't say, hey, like, we're not friends.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just text them.
You can play back. You can be like, are you going to add a boyfriend in there? I don't know. You can like play back if they're playing.
For sure you can play back, but not if you just met the person.
Okay, yeah, not if you just met them. Then you can just say other stuff. You'd be like, oh, I don't text my other friends like this. Like, I don't know. You can drop little hints.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Like, that they're saying the word friend in a flirty way, maybe not actually calling you a friend, but you can still drop your hints from your side.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to poke fun at them or ask some questions and say, what kind of friend are you talking about?
Yeah.
Or I think a lot of times if we're on the receiving end of those texts, our mind just jumps to one thing.
Yeah.
But poke at them a little bit and see, maybe they don't mean platonic friend. Maybe they're
that's their banter.
A little slow to their chase. No, I think a lot of times in these situations, it's guys saying that and they just don't know better.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Those are the scenarios that I heard of.
Okay.
And, okay, but then what are other ways to do that? I like how you said make your intentions clear. Let's say you just met someone. You're not, I think that might be coming off a little too strong if you just...
Like, I think, certain things that, so, when I met Email Cheater, like, I just knew, like, that it was not friendship.
Oh, I knew too.
And that was my first time meeting him. He didn't have to, like, become my friend first or blah, 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 blah. And I think it's just, like, little stuff, like, if you compliment, like, their appearance. Like, a friend wouldn't do that. A friend's there for, like, your company, not for how you look. You know?
Yeah. Well... a friend of the other gender, because guys will hype guys up. Actually, that should happen a little more, so make sure to like do
hype
that.
Hype up your friends.
And then girls will do that all the time.
Yeah, all the time. But yeah, just like showing them, and we already talked about little stuff, like, if you guys are just hanging out and it's undefined what you are, and it's just as friends or something, like if you're at Starbucks, like just pay for hers as well. Like little tiny, it's Starbucks. It's like tiny, or like it's something that could be more. Just flirt. Honestly, just flirt. And you can flirt small. Like I think, you can flirt like with little things. It doesn't have to be something huge, so it comes across like way too strong and makes the other person feel uncomfortable. But you should just like, you shouldn't ever let yourself be in just that acting like a friend, or let the other person get confused that, oh, he's doing all these nice things for me. Like, he's picking me up from the airport. What a good friend. No, don't let them get it confused.
Yeah. And I think we'll have to do an episode on how to flirt, because it's not as simple as that. We're both aware of that. But it's like little things like making eye contact, smiling when you have conversation. I love how you brought up compliments, because that goes a long way. And I think asking them questions, having some banter,
also like
joking a little
the
bit.
kinds of questions you're asking. If you're asking about their future, if you're asking about like past like like which friends do talk about that stuff, but it's just like the right time and place for asking the right stuff,
Yeah.
to show what your intentions are.
And I guess for us, we're figuring out something like timing. So I agree with you. It's important to make your intentions clear right off the bat.
Yeah.
But before you make your intentions clear, you want to make sure that this person might be open
Right.
to something. And so I don't know, how do you feel about saying something like, I think it's like super okay to just ask, are you single or are you taken?
Yeah, I mean, I hope you don't say it like that. Like, maybe...
Well, how should you say it?
It's like, oh, so are you seeing anyone right now? Like, just like in a soft way. But yeah, you're totally okay to ask that. And like you said, especially when you meet someone and it's brand new, like, you can try to like ask for their number. And if they give it to you, like, that's a point towards you. That's like, which a lot of people will give a number to a friend as well.
Yeah.
But then you can see like what they do about that number and like how do you guys hang out, and then all that other stuff we talked about, like the conversations, the questions, and like dropping little flirty comments, like, and then just seeing how they react to them. Honestly, a lot about this is just like being present in the moment and seeing how the other person is reacting.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually, now that I think about it, I think it is important to ask. And saying it like that, like, are you seeing someone?
Yeah.
Could be really helpful. Because based on how they answer that, they might show you if they're interested or not.
Totally. Like, I had a friend this weekend, actually. He said he got, like, this pretty girl's number on the bus. He was all excited. And then, obviously he didn't hold back. Like, that weekend, he was like, hey, like, because they were talking about food. And he's like, oh, there's this great brunch place, like, near my house. Like, what do you think about Sunday brunch? And at least, he didn't ask if she was single, but because she did give him, her number. And they didn't, she didn't have a reason to. But she was, like, really nice and respectful. And she texted him. She's like, oh, like, I actually have a boyfriend, but, like, we can still do brunch if you want.
Dang.
Yeah. So I think it's good. He was very clear with his intentions. He knew he was trying to take her on a date and get that brunch. And she very quickly clarified, like, oh, actually, I was just looking for a friend, not anything romantic.
Yeah. I think if you're the one who is giving the number, it's actually your job to make that clear.
Yeah, but it's so hard. Sometimes people ask you for your number and you're just like, well, like, it's hard, like, in the moment, sometimes you panic and you just like give it to them. So it's easier to clarify later on.
I agree, and I think that's totally okay. But even saying like I'm so down to get brunch, I think that's like definitely crossing the line.
Yeah. Well, she meant with her boyfriend. Like,
what?
her bringing her boyfriend.
Oh,
they can all be
this is
friends.
so weird now. What the heck?
That they can all be friends.
Would you ever say something like that?
Imagine if you meet somebody on the bus and that you think they want to be your friend, and you're like, oh yeah, like, let's go for brunch, all of us together.
Yo, put on these glasses again. What the heck am I listening to?
This is
That's
what really
crazy.
happened. This is not even my delusion.
If you asked out a guy and then he said, I'm seeing someone, but we can still get brunch with my girlfriend, would you go?
No, because if I wanted him as a romantic interest, I wouldn't go. But if I met somebody, like, let's say I met Ethan on the bus and he was my friend, and I was like, oh, blah, 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 do you want to hang out? Do you want to go play pickleball? And he's like, yeah, can I bring my girlfriend? I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll bring another friend. Pickleball could also be a date. But between friends, it's like, oh yeah, for sure, bring your partner.
But are you saying that to, like, now play defense because you didn't get what you wanted and you're trying to, like, save your image?
Possibly. Or it could just be that they just want to be your, like, maybe they were also okay with being friends, because you can also meet friends on the bus. You don't just have to meet romantic interests.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying, I mean, no, this kind of like, I fall under this, but as you get older, and I do want to be clear, because some people have gotten offended that we're saying that we're old, and we don't mean to offend you. We just meant that as a joke.
Yeah.
But I think when you do start to mature, a lot of times you're not looking for new friends. If it happens, it happens.
Okay.
And I think when you reach a certain life stage, you're looking for a partner. You're looking
Okay.
for something serious, something that can turn into something.
Mm-hmm.
And so just for me, listening to that, if I were in that situation,
Mm-hmm.
I would not show up.
Yeah.
You know, I would not say I'm bringing a pickleball partner. I'm saying, okay,
Enjoy.
yeah. You should still check out this brunch place with your boyfriend.
Yeah. Which is fine too.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the second question. So one of my friends listened to our podcast and enjoyed it, and he actually just went out on a first date.
Okay.
And actually now he's gone out on a second date.
Wow, went well.
Yeah. And so his question is, what are the do's and don'ts of a first date?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, to be honest, you might not need this so much because now you're looking at a potential date 3. And he's actually mentioned that that the girl has asked him to hang out again.
Oh, wow.
And so for this question, I think we'll each give either a do or a don't.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll say our thoughts about going from a second date to a third date.
Okay.
And what are like some good pointers that we can give in that situation.
Okay. Can I do a don't on a first date?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I think a don't would be don't like trauma dump on the other person.
Mm-hmm.
This is your first time meeting them. I get that you have to be true to yourself and, show who you are like we were talking about, but don't use it as like a therapy session and like tell them everything about your past relationships and like why you are the way that you are on like a first date.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first date should just be to like, get them interested and to show like, to start showing who you are, but definitely don't like trauma dump.
Mm-hmm. And I guess my advice is on the flip side of that you should avoid, not you should, but I think if you have time,
Mm-hmm.
it's good to sometimes avoid the very serious questions on the first date. So if they come up, you can talk about it, but I think it's important on the first date to just have good conversation and figure out what gets them ticking as a person, like what gets them out of bed in the morning, what are they excited and passionate about.
Yeah.
And see if you enjoy the conversation and see what kind of similarities you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when it comes to their values and what they're looking for, that will slowly come out.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you need to explicitly ask, how come you're single right now?
Yeah.
Or what are you looking for? I think what are you looking for is fair.
It's okay.
That's not too serious,
Yeah.
but
Like just try to enjoy each other's company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then for someone, actually, this doesn't work so well because by the time they see this, right? Who knows? It might be date 10 or...
They're already dating their girlfriend, boyfriend.
Or nothing happened out of it. Okay, but let's just say you've gone on a second date.
Uh-huh.
What should be going through your head before date 3? For example, I think this guy, what happened was he kissed her on day 2.
Okay.
But he didn't really want to. He just felt like there was a lot of social pressure to make the move, kiss her. Mm-hmm. And so I think for him, he's not super sure where he stands with her, like how he feels towards her.
Oh,
so
okay.
Are there things that he should be figuring out? Should he even just go through on another date, or are there things that he needs to figure out beforehand?
I guess it depends on what things he's confused about. But I would say if it's stuff to do with her that he thinks he needs to talk to her about, I think date 3 is like a good time to, like figure out, okay, like if I have any doubts, like let's talk about my doubts. Let's discuss if this has a future and like seriously, where is this going? Like give it a more better direction, I guess, a more clear direction.
Mm-hmm. And we're not saying like sit down interview style and just ask the questions point blank. But for example, with the breadcrumber, on date 3, I wanted to figure out what pace she wanted to go at.
Right.
And so how I asked that was, I asked, what has to happen before you jump into a relationship? And so
good way of asking.
So that's just a way to kind of take it down, make it casual.
Yeah.
But I do agree with Sania. When you get to a date 3 and you're actually, I think it's important to actually consider if you see any potential, because if you keep going, then, and you don't like the person, then you're wasting time and effort.
Yeah.
And if there is potential, you want to kind of build on that.
Yeah.
From the beginning. And so I think it's important to figure out what questions you want to ask, what's important for you to figure out right now, and then ask that in a casual way. You don't have to be super serious about it. And and based on how she answers or how he answers, that will say a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I think our point is, don't shy away from asking questions that are important to you.
Yeah.
And there are ways to ask that it doesn't have to be so serious.
Yeah.
And if you ever need advice on how to ask a question that way, feel free to DM us or ask friends.
Also, feel free to drop comments. We love reading your comments.
Yeah. We haven't been getting so many comments, but especially on the first episode, what a throwback. And maybe we'll have like more comments since then, but like they're so funny.
You guys were so right about email cheater.
Yeah.
I wish these videos were posting live. It would have saved me a lot of heartache. So thanks.
Yeah, you guys are pretty good. So feel free to leave comments. I think a lot of times like you can be anonymous, so feel free to just share your thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid if you roast me.
Yeah.
Don't roast Sania though. And we're happy to hear your thoughts. We know you have good things to say. Okay, well, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for tuning in again, and we'll see you next time.